Hello, my name is Peter Barnes from DELL EMC. I'm responsible for our server business across Western Europe and Russia. The correct choice of servers helps our customers scale their infrastructure to meet their changing business requirements. It helps them automate their processes to make their infrastructures more efficient and drive out runtime costs. And perhaps most importantly of all, our servers help our customers be protected from unwanted security issues and threats. So scale, automate, protect. But if we can just move back from servers for a minute and just think more kind of holistically, most people watching this are IT professionals. And as IT professionals, you work for an organization, and the goals of your organization aren't necessarily down to do with servers. The goals of your organization, if you're in the commercial sector, is to do better business. And if you're one of the 30 to 40% of people who are actually working in the public sector, your objective for your organization is to give better public service. Those are ultimately the drivers that drive our organizations. As an IT people, it is our objective to underpin those. And the way that we underpin these today is we help our organizations on their journey to digital transformation. Now, digital transformation is something of a buzzword in the industry right now. If you pare it all back, what does it really mean? What digital transformation means, it means taking ideas and turning those into software. Because by definition, innovation is about ideas, but it can only be digital innovation if it's running in software. And where does all modern software run? All modern software runs in or on, depending on what you want to call it, a cloud. But a cloud, of course, isn't a specific place. It isn't just the large public clouds that we're all familiar with. Cloud can also mean a private cloud running within our own data center, and increasingly, cloud can mean a hybrid cloud. A cloud operations that are actually moving from the public cloud to our private cloud and potentially back again. Now, if we look inside the infrastructure of a cloud, the physical infrastructure, what we will see is an environment, a modern environment, modern IT, where everything is highly virtualized. We'll see an environment where there's a high degree of convergence or even hyperconvergence. And we'll see that all of this convergence and hyperconvergence and virtualization is running in a software-defined environment. What does that mean? That means if you look at the physical layer inside a modern cloud data center, on-premise, off-premise, public, hybrid, what you will see is row after row after row of x86 servers. The x86 server is the fundamental building block of the modern data center, supporting business transformation. So what I want to do now is show you how, with our PowerEdge servers, we help our customers with our PowerEdge x86 servers achieve these goals of scale, automate, and protect. Let me start with scale. So, what do I mean by scale? We help our customers scale in two dimensions. They can scale up and they can scale out. So if we start on the scale out spectrum with the kind of simple tower server that you might deploy in a remote office or remote branch, you then have, you move up towards rack servers, multiple rack servers, and then we have what used to be called blade servers that we would actually these days refer more to as a modular environment. And in each of these cases, no matter what the fundamental architecture of the building block is we can scale up. We can scale up by adding more CPUs. We can scale up by adding GPUs, graphic processing. We can add FPGAs these days to do specific tasks very, very well in servers. So that's the CPU layer. In addition to that, we can add more memory, NVMe. We can add additional hard disk drives, increasingly SSD, solid state disks. We can add more I/O, bandwidth and speed in and out of our servers to scale up the individual nodes within this fabric. The thing that we've done at Dell EMC and the investments that we've made in the last few years, which are kind of incremental to all of this, is we've gone one step further. Rather than just building fantastic servers that you can scale up, we've actually recognized that there are specific workloads and applications out there where our customers don't want to have to redesign each time from scratch. So to help them do that, we created something called Ready Solutions. And our Ready Solutions address multiple different workloads. And those are workloads such as VMware, vSAN, with our VxRail and VxRack appliances. They are the Microsoft stack based on Spaces or Spaces Direct, and Azure stack. They include high performance compute appliances. They include VDI appliances, big data appliances, Oracle appliances, SAP HANA appliances. And each of these, and others beyond, and each of these are actually ordered, configured, and then delivered to you as a ready-to-go infrastructure optimized for a specific workload. And we sell these to you as a series of nodes. And as you want to expand, you add more nodes, and beyond each node, we can add additional racks. So this can scale out ad infinitum in terms of the number of racks and the number of nodes, in addition to, of course, doing the scaling within the server itself. So scale up and scale out on an unprecedented range with a huge investment into these ready solutions. So that's how we help our customers scale. Let's move on to automate. From an automation point of view, what are we actually trying to achieve here? What we're trying to achieve in automate is we're trying to reduce OpEx, run cost. Because ultimately, however much money we spend on infrastructure, people are still probably the most expensive thing we have within our total infrastructure. So we want to automate to reduce the amount of manual intervention that's required in the management of our estate. We also want to increase uptime and service availability. And we also want to accelerate what I would call time to value. So the time from you decide you need some additional infrastructure, purchase that infrastructure, have it rapidly built in our factories on a build-to-order basis, which we can do very fast, typically in about 7 to 10 days, get that infrastructure into your environment, and then have it actually generating benefit to your organization in as small a window as possible. So when I think about automate, there are three essential steps which form part of an endless circle. One is the deployment of new infrastructure. Then the second one is the monitoring of that infrastructure. Finally, management of that infrastructure. These are all kind of connected to each other. And within the Dell server environment, we've helped orchestrate all of that by doing all of that around a consistent tool and database called OME, Open Managed Enterprise. And I'll talk to that in a moment. Let's just start by looking at deploy. Right? One of the things we actually do is we provide a service we call Pro Deploy. Pro Deploy is a SKU-based deployment service that allows you, when you buy the server and configure a server, to actually buy that deployment service with the server. So when the server turns up, a Dell or Dell partner engineer turns up, helps you actually deploy that into your infrastructure. And that can be from a basic kind of rack and stack all the way through to effectively a full integration of those servers and the software on those servers into your existing estate, a fully comprehensive service. So a lot of choice there in terms of Pro Deploy to help with the task of deployment, again, to help speed up that time to live. From a point of view of monitoring, we have a service called Support Assist. Dell EMC Support Assist is part of our Pro Support family, and what that does is it does remote diagnostics and monitoring of the systems, and if there are any issues that it detects, issues that may not have even actually manifested themselves to you at that point in time, it does a dial home or dial into Dell, where our engineers will then see that you've got a challenge or a potential challenge. We will actually rectify, root cause and rectify that problem, send the engineer and send the part, in some cases before you even knew you had the issue. The net result of all of that is when our customers use Support Assist, we can actually speed up time to fix by as much as 90%. So we've talked about deploy, we've talked about monitor, just manage. So the core of our management capability, as I mentioned earlier, is Open Manage Enterprise. Now, Open Manage Enterprise gives you complete control of your server estate. We can do that from one server to tens of thousands of servers. We can do that on a local basis, standing right next to the machine, remote from within the same building or network, or indeed we can manage thousands of servers centrally from a single console. And we do that from a remote perspective using the Dell integrated remote access controller. It's a piece of hardware that physically goes into each server that sits out of band from the main operating system and allows OpenManage to do exactly that, manage the server from where it is. And the great thing about OpenManage is that it can actually be plugged into and operated through your existing preferred systems management console. So if you're in a Microsoft environment, that'd be System Center. If you're a VMware environment with vCenter, a variety of different Linux consoles, the last thing that most operators want is another management tool. So actually OpenManage can be deployed almost unseen, executing through those fabrics, be it Microsoft, be it VMware, be it Linux. So we've talked about how we scale an infrastructure all the way through and including very sophisticated workloads in some instances. We've talked about how we help automate and take out cost from the operation. The third thing, protect. How do we build into our servers and services around it, protect, inherent security? Well, we do that in two ways. In terms of the physical infrastructure, we have deployed a technology called Silicon Root of Trust. Silicon Root of Trust. What does that mean? It means actually at the physical layer, baked into the silicon, in the server itself, is encrypted the identity, the unique identity of that service. What that means is no matter how sophisticated a software or hacking can be, it can't fundamentally change the identity of the server itself. That's very important because then other services are built, other security layers are built on top of that Silicon Root of Trust, one of which is signed drivers. So when you get updates, not just for the main server itself, the BIOS of the server or the DRAC controller, but any of the different cards that may be plugged into that server, I/O devices, you can be absolutely sure that they are the correct devices, they've been tested by and released by Dell, and they're the right devices to execute on your server. The other thing we will do, where our customers ask us to, is we can help them give them a lockable configuration. And that means that people can't go in and tamper with the configuration that in turn opens up other security liabilities within an organization. So we have built essentially from a physical layer the most kind of cyber secure server that we've ever seen, frankly. But from a Protect point of view, it's not just about the physical infrastructure, it's about the service wrap that goes with that. And the way we do that, and the anchor for that is, I mentioned earlier, is our Pro Support services, of which the best one is our Pro Support Plus. And Pro Support Plus can do everything from kind of next business day all the way through to a kind of 4-hour mission critical response. Clearly that's all done on a 24/7 by 365 basis. Interestingly, when I talk to many of our customers, they'll tell me that the reason they originally chose Dell servers was perhaps to do with the scalability and the performance characteristics. Perhaps it's to do with open manage and the ability to automate their processes. But actually, the thing they enjoy the most, and they find that much better with Dell EMC than they find elsewhere, is actually support. And Pro Support is very much the kind of jewel in the crown from a support services perspective. So again, protect both at the physical layer, protect at the service layer. And by helping our customers scale their infrastructure in line with their business requirements, either as CapEx, by the way, traditional purchase, or OpEx. And one of the things we've learned from the cloud world is actually people sometimes want the ability to scale up or down. So we actually have a Dell Financial Services vehicle called Cloud Flex that fundamentally turns CapEx to OpEx and gives you that kind of flexibility. So whether people want to OpEx or CapEx that infrastructure, we can help scale it in line with business requirement. We can then help you automate your systems management, monitoring, deployment to make it as frictionless as possible and to use as little resource as possible whilst maintaining the integrity of the environment. And on the subject of integrity, end-to-end protect security. These three assets, these three attributes put together make our servers, our power, edge servers, Dell EMC x86 servers, the bedrock of the modern data center, the bedrock of digital transformation, and fundamentally a really solid choice for your business. Thank you.